Make sure y'all stay on point with the Puncher's Point. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Puncher's Point. We have another prediction episode for y'all, but before we get to that, I do want to wish y'all a very happy 4th of July. Now, when this episode gets uploaded, it's going to be a little bit past the 4th of July. However, regardless, I still want to wish y'all a happy 4th of July. And on this 4th of July, there was no place that I'd rather be than giving this prediction episode to y'all. And the reason why I say this is because I am giving a prediction episode for two undefeated lightweight fighters. One who is the WBC Lightweight Champion, Shakur Stevenson, going up against an undefeated challenger, an undefeated, dangerous challenger at that, in William Zepeda. Now, there's going to be some questions that are going to be answered in this prediction episode. One of those questions is, has Shakur Stevenson met his match? The other question is Shakur Stevenson's defense going to be too much for William Zepeda? And when I look at this fight, it's almost like a yin versus yang type of thing. You see, both of these guys have two completely different styles. They operate two different ways in the ring. But when you put those styles together, it can make for a beautiful matchup. And I honestly cannot wait to see what happens in this fight. This fight is going to be taking place July 12th for the WBC Lightweight Championship. Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda at the famous Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York. So with that being said, we're going to kick right into it. We're going to start off with the WBC Lightweight Champion, Shakur Stevenson.
Shakur Stevenson!
Now, as far as Shakur Stevenson, we got to talk about his strengths. What are his strengths? Well, I'm going to give the first one. The first one is the biggest strength of all. He is the best defensive boxer in today's game. And I'm not just talking about his division. The best defensive fighter in today's game. The only guy I can honestly see rivaling him as far as defense is Bivol. Other than that, it's him. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people just don't put that type of respect on Shakur Stevenson's name. They look at him as a runner. They look at him as a boring fighter. But you know who they said that about too? Floyd Mayweather. And trust me, there's a lot of fans, a lot of boxing fans who don't like Floyd Mayweather because of those simple things. But the truth is, regardless, no matter which way you want to slice it or dice it, Shakur Stevenson is a great defensive fighter. It's the offense that is everybody else's problem with him. But we're going to talk about that. See, the thing is with Shakur Stevenson, defensively, there's not a thing that he can't do. Defensively, I mean, the guy's got head movement. The guy's got footwork. The guy knows how to trap fighters. I mean, he is very good when it comes to defense. The second strength that he has a pure boxing stance. I can't say that about many fighters in today's game. You see, Floyd Mayweather, he had that pretty Philly shell, but Floyd Mayweather, no matter what pressure came his way, he always seemed to embrace that Philly shell. He never let anybody crack it. That's what made Floyd Mayweather so great was his stance could never be broken. It's the same thing with Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson does not have a Philly shell. I'm not saying that. But his stance, it's hard to break. And that's the thing about Shakur Stevenson. That shows composure. In the toughest situations, when you're getting pressured, you're able to stay composed and you're able to keep your fundamentals. You're able to keep that stance and you're able to stick to your bread and butter. That's what I really like about Shakur Stevenson. The third strength that he has a nice 1-2. And offensively, that could be a weakness for him. But when he gets into the groove, when he realizes that he can control the entire fight, that 1-2 is a hard combo for a lot of fighters to reverse, a lot of fighters to figure out. And when he lands that 1-2, it could be very, very dangerous. Now, this strength right here, this is probably the most underrated. And it's one that we forgot about until he was in the Padley fight. Very underrated body puncher. If you go back to 130 pounds, he was dominating. He was body hunting every single fighter that there was. It didn't matter whether they were power fighters, whether they were more elusive. It didn't matter. He was body hunting everyone. Then he got to 135 pounds. He had a very dominant performance against Yoshino. But right after that Yoshino fight, there was the De Los Santos fight. Then there was the Haratunian fight. And then he had the Padley fight. And it took the Padley fight for us to be reminded that Shakur Stevenson could be very dangerous to the body. And he proved that in that fight. So I will say that is an underrated strength that Shakur Stevenson has. And I'm not just talking about the Padley fight. Go look at his highlights when he was at 130 pounds. He was really killing opponents to those bodies. Quick reflexes. That's the other thing about Shakur Stevenson. It's almost like he can see everything in slow motion. It's like he has that spider sense that he knows what's coming and he can see it in slow motion. And that's what made Shakur Stevenson so great so far. That's why he's been able to have so much success. He hasn't been tested as much because it's those reflexes that he has, and those reflexes allows him to counterpunch opponents, to get out of harm's way, to be elusive. That's what makes Shakur Stevenson so good. Is it's like he can see everything in slow motion, and he has so quick, and his reflexes are so quick that he's able to defend whatever the opponent is trying to throw at him. He's able to counterpunch. He's able to trap opponents. That's what makes Shakur Stevenson so great. He's got very, very clean footwork. It seems like he just knows the right places to be in that ring. He knows how to move around it. He knows how to control it. He knows how to basically stay within his range. I mean, Shakur Stevenson's footwork is impeccable. Now, he has very, very pinpoint accuracy when he is a counterpuncher. See, the thing is, as an offensive fighter, he's not always the most aggressive. But what I will say about Shakur Stevenson is when you give him the chance to be a counterpuncher, he does not take it lightly and he takes advantage of it very, very quickly. I mean, the guy is pinpoint and it is hard to defeat him when he's on top of his game. Go watch that Oscar Valdez fight. That is a perfect example of a dominant counterpuncher. And there's so many more where Shakur Stevenson is just able to pick apart his opponent. He is very good when his back is against the ropes. That is one thing that I want to say maybe 90 to 95% of these boxers in today's game are not good at. When their backs are against the rope, that is when they're troubled. When Shakur Stevenson's back is against those ropes, that is when he shines the brightest because he doesn't look at it as him being trapped. He'll find a way away from those ropes. As a matter of fact, one of the cleanest moves that I've seen from him when he was on the ropes was when he was fighting Valdez, and Valdez was coming forward thinking that he had him trapped, and Shakur Stevenson turned the tables on him, got Valdez on those ropes, and then he hit him with a counter and he knocked him down. To me, that's what makes Shakur Stevenson such a dangerous fighter. And then last but not least, if I had to point to one power punch that he has that I feel like could be a threat, is that left straight. When he starts laying that left straight, it could be a very, very dangerous punch. So for me, those are the strengths for Shakur Stevenson. Now, as far as the weaknesses, he does have some weaknesses, not many because he hasn't been tested yet. And that's one of the weaknesses that I have for him. He hasn't been fully tested. He's been in the ring with some former champions. He's been into the ring with some tough competitors, but he hasn't been fully tested yet. And it's because he's been able to be this elusive. He's been able to be this slick for so long, and he's been able to have all these opponents' numbers, and they haven't been able to figure him out. But I want to see what happens when a guy is going to be able to test him. Josh Padley had moments where he would test him, but he didn't do it for the majority of the fight. I want to see how Shakur Stevenson handles inside pressure. To me, that's one of his weaknesses is if you can get to the inside of Shakur Stevenson, start attacking that body a little bit, start making a dogfight, then you could start racking points up on Shakur Stevenson. Maybe you can even hurt him. And I think Padley kind of showed that weakness a little bit in the last fight where he was able to keep pushing forward, get to the inside, and he was able to make it a dogfight in some moments with Shakur Stevenson. The other weakness that I think Shakur Stevenson has is he does not chain his offensive combos together. He doesn't chain them together. And when he was at 130, he was doing that very, very well. But ever since he's got to 135, it seems like he's kind of lost that offensive fire. He seems like he's kind of lost that offensive pressure that he's not chaining those punches together. Now, in the Padley fight, he was doing that. He was a lot more offensive than we've seen him in previous fights. However, that's only one fight. It's not enough for me to view it as a strength. As of right now, it's a weakness because his offense has not been consistent. But it's a good start. The Josh Padley fight is a good start. Now we can see if he's going to be able to carry that momentum, carry that offensive pressure to William Zepeda. Slow pace. I think that he kind of is a slow paced fighter when it comes to boxing. He really does like to take his time in that ring. And the reason why that's a weakness for me is because I haven't seen a fighter that is able to pick up this pace on him. Because he's always been able to control the fight at his own speed. He's always been able to be patient, take his time, basically analyze his opponent and not be pressured when it comes to it. But I want to see what happens when a guy is able to pressure Shakur Stevenson when they're throwing such high volume punches like a William Zepeda. I want to see what he does against those types of fighters when he's forced to pick up the pace. And overall, to me, those would be the weaknesses for Shakur Stevenson. So if I had to give the overall full breakdown, great defensive fighter. He has the potential to be a great offensive fighter. However, he lacks the consistency of offense. So in this fight, I think it's important because we get to see Shakur Stevenson's strengths in a very, very famous stadium. We get to see his strengths against William Zepeda, who is a very, very good offensive fighter. But we also get to see whether or not Shakur Stevenson has the firepower to compete with William Zepeda. Now we go to the undefeated challenger, William Zepeda. William Zepeda, again, this is a very, very dangerous fighter for Shakur Stevenson to fight. However, William Zepeda does have some concerns as we approach this fight. And we're going to see what those concerns are. You see, the thing is with William Zepeda is a very, very dangerous fighter. However, here's where it gets a little sticky with William Zepeda. But before we get to the weaknesses, I need to talk about the strengths. The biggest strength for William Zepeda, he is a very relentless offensive fighter. William Zepeda, I mean, we've talked about the Mexican boxing style for so long that these guys just continue to charge in like bulls no matter what, and they're able to just go into these fights and give brawls. They're able to wreak havoc on an opponent. William Zepeda is that guy. William Zepeda is that type of guy that he will throw over 600 punches in a fight. That is who William Zepeda is. And so when I look at this fight, he has the volume to make this a fast-paced fight. The second strength that he has, he's got fast hands. And I need to see what Shakur Stevenson does when he has to fight somebody who's got hands as fast as him. Very underrated footwork. I'm not going to say it's the best, but he does have underrated footwork. He's not that type of guy that's going to cut angles and everything like that. But what makes his footwork so underrated is he has the ability to cut a ring on an opponent who's very mobile. And we've seen fighters who just can't cut the ring. We've seen guys who just weren't able to cut the ring against Shakur Stevenson, guys like Oscar Valdez. But I think it's a little bit different with William Zepeda, and the reason why I say that is because William Zepeda is going to put him into those holes. And I believe the reason why he has a better chance than Oscar Valdez is because even though both of them are going to be looking for attacks, I do believe William Zepeda's footwork is a lot better. I do believe he's a lot more quicker than Oscar Valdez, and I do believe that he can be a little bit more versatile offensively than Valdez, but that footwork, the reason why I talk about it is because when he gets fighters in danger, he is able to use that footwork to cut the ring. He is able to basically seclude the space that his opponent has, and he just wreaks havoc once he does that. So that is going to be something that is going to test Shakur Stevenson when this fight comes around. Can he take the pressure from William Zepeda? The other strength that I think William Zepeda has, again, I talked about his high volume, but it's the knockout power. I mean, the guy is 33-0 with 27 knockouts. He's going in there to look for the knockout. He's not going in there to rack up points, to have a boxing match. He's going in there to drop Shakur Stevenson. And Shakur Stevenson has been in the ring with guys who could do that, but not at the level of William Zepeda, in my opinion. The other thing about William Zepeda, another strong body puncher. And this is why it's so interesting, is because when they have those inside exchanges, I already know that William Zepeda is going to be targeting Shakur's body. I already know that Shakur is going to be finding ways to target William Zepeda's body, potentially more on the outside than the inside. But the question is, who is the better body puncher? And that's going to be a big test. And then last but not least, that left hand. I mean, William Zepeda's got a nasty, nasty left hand. And if he lands clean on Shakur Stevenson, then we're going to start seeing Shakur Stevenson get tested. And then after that, it's going to be up to Shakur Stevenson to prove that even if he gets hit with the biggest punches, he can continue to move forward. Because William Zepeda, he did that. I mean, he got clipped completely clean by Tevin Farmer in their first fight. And Farmer dropped him in that first fight. But William Zepeda got back up and he made it a dogfight. And a lot of people don't agree with the decision from the first fight, but the second fight ended way completely different. William Zepeda dominated him. And I think that when we look at that fight, I think I can see William Zepeda, he's proven that he's been able to get up from getting caught clean with a punch and continue to move forward. I haven't seen that from Shakur Stevenson. But if he gets clipped with that left hand, then we're going to start seeing Shakur Stevenson in positions that he hasn't been seen before. Now, as far as the weaknesses, what were those weaknesses with William Zepeda? Well, like I mentioned, he's been dropped before. So what has he been dropped at? Well, I will say this. Every single time he's been dropped, it's because the right side of his face was open. So usually he's getting dropped by a left. And it's very interesting when we look at that because Shakur Stevenson's best power punch, as I mentioned before, is a left straight. And I do believe that just like there's the danger with William Zepeda landing that left hand, if Shakur lands that left straight, we might see William Zepeda get dropped. I mean, Shakur Stevenson has dropped guys like Oscar Valdez who are high pressured fighters. And I do believe William Zepeda is better than Oscar Valdez. But in my opinion, the question is William Zepeda going to be able to handle Shakur Stevenson when those moments come? And that's going to be a big question in this fight. Lack of head movement, that's what I will say. I don't think his head movement is that great. I mean, he has a good little pullback where he kind of pulls back his head. But if we're talking about head movement, it's not really there. And he relies too much on just deflecting these punches with his guard. And you can't do that in boxing, especially against somebody like Shakur Stevenson. You're going to have a little bit more defense than you had the last fights. And lack of head movement. I mean, Shakur Stevenson is just going to eat that up, especially when he's trying to trap you. He's trying to hit you with some counters. The other thing about William Zepeda, he doesn't do very well with counters. He's not really good at responding back or basically following up. He kind of just gets hit with the counters and then he resets. And then last but not least, he's not the best on the outside. He really loves the inside. He really loves to fight on the inside, make it a dogfight, but he's not really the best at creating things on the outside. Basically, his idea is to impose his will early, get into the inside, and attack you. But unlike a Shakur Stevenson, who's able to attack from the outside and then from there dig to the inside, William Zepeda starts from the inside and he stays there. And to me, he's not the best outside fighter. I don't see too much of a jab with him when it comes to that type of stuff. It seems like every single attack that he has, it's to get to the inside. And I will say that's a weakness because if he can't get to the inside, it's going to be a cakewalk for Shakur Stevenson. So the overall breakdown I have for William Zepeda is he's such a strong, physically imposing, relentless offensive fighter. But there's still questions about his defense, and that's why I say it's like a yin and yang. With Shakur Stevenson, we know his defense is almost flawless, but his offense is very inconsistent. When we look at William Zepeda, we know his offense is super relentless and super dangerous, but his defense still has questions, and that's why it's almost like yin versus yang when it comes to these two. It's basically grit versus flash, and that's why I'm excited to see this fight. This is power versus speed. This is yin versus yang. I mean, whatever you want to call it, these two are the opposites of each other. So when they step into the ring, it's going to make a great fight, in my opinion. So with that being said, what are the keys for Shakur Stevenson winning this fight? Well, first of all, you got to land that counter left straight. And I'm not saying do it every time, but when you find William Zepeda in a very, very vulnerable position, kind of like Tevin Farmer did, land that left straight. And I do believe, especially during a counter, land that counter left straight. And I do believe that you have a good chance of dropping William Zepeda if you can. Trap him in situations that force William Zepeda to act like a fool. Force William Zepeda to believe that he has you surrounded just like you did with Oscar Valdez. And then right when he's about to pull the trigger, you trap him. You set him up for something like a left straight. You set him up for something like a counter. You hit him to the body. Basically, trap him into thinking that he has the edge when clearly you do. That's what I will say. And then last but not least, keep on to the outside. I don't want to see Shakur make it a brawl on the inside with William Zepeda because that's when he's going to put himself into some dangerous situations. Shakur Stevenson, he's the best on the outside. Again, a very, very pure fighter. He's able to use his jab effectively. He's able to fight on the outside effectively. So stay on the outside. Don't let William Zepeda get to the inside. He's the bull. You're the matador. And that's how you got to treat this fight. Now, as far as William Zepeda, the keys for him, I will say is make your way to the inside. Like I said, that's the complete opposite of what Shakur's got to do. You got to make your way to the inside because, in my opinion, I don't think you're going to beat Shakur on the outside. I think you're going to have to beat him on the inside. And the way to do that is the way that you've been doing it all along, which is force your will on Shakur Stevenson, force him to kind of crumble. And then once he crumbles, get to the inside. Have some Josh Padley moments where you're digging into his body on the inside. Force him to have a very, very uncomfortable fight. Force him to break that guard that he has. The second key that I will have for William Zepeda is make it a fast-paced fight. Like I said, Shakur Stevenson, he loves the slow-paced fights. He loves to take his time in that ring. He loves to analyze his opponents. Don't let Shakur Stevenson do that. That has been the one weakness that all of Shakur Stevenson's opponents have had was they try to outbox him. They try to take their time. They try to figure him out. There's not many opponents that he had that were able to go in there, brawl, push him back, and make it a dangerous fight. I keep on mentioning Josh Padley, but I think it's important. Josh Padley took that fight on a 1 day notice. 1 day. He had 1 day to prepare for that fight. You can't prepare for Shakur Stevenson in 1 day. However, out of all these guys recently that Shakur Stevenson has fought, Josh Padley had some of the most successful offense. And the reason why was because he realized, look, I don't really have a strategy here on how to beat this guy. I can't figure one out in a day. But what I can do is I can get to the inside, dig to his body, and force him to have a dogfight with me. That's what William Zepeda has to do. I'm not saying come into this fight without no strategy, but don't just sit there and be patient and try to analyze him while he's analyzing you. You're going to lose that fight. What you need to do is you need to make it relentless. You need to have a high flow punch. You need to be able to go into the inside and dig to his body. You have to make it uncomfortable for him. The way to do that is you got to be fast paced. Every single second of that round, you have to make Shakur Stevenson think faster. You have to kind of rush him. So that would be the second key to victory for William Zepeda. And last but not least, cut that ring by using your pressure. Again, force Shakur Stevenson to back up against the ropes. And when you do cut that ring off, I do believe William Zepeda cuts the ring off very well against a lot of opponents. But you're really going to have to do it against Shakur Stevenson. And like I said, he has underrated footwork. I believe that. But that question is going to be answered when this fight happens July 12th. And so we get to the betting odds. Now, the favorite for this fight is the champion, Shakur Stevenson, at a shocking minus 1200. I thought the odds were going to be a lot more slimmer than that, but Shakur Stevenson is the favorite at minus 1200, while William Zepeda is the underdog at plus 680. The most likely method to victory would be Shakur Stevenson winning by decision at minus 250, but the least likely method to victory, besides a draw, would be William Zepeda winning by decision at minus 1500. So you ask me, well, first of all, here's what I will say. I do think that it's worth the risk to bet on William Zepeda. I'm not saying he's going to win this fight, but he has a chance to win this fight. He's got a better chance than a Josh Padley or a Haritunian or an Edwin De Los Santos. I believe that. So if you want to place a risky bet on William Zepeda, something like a $5 or $10 bet, I'm cool with that because again, you could pay out. William Zepeda does have some of the strength that could defeat Shakur Stevenson, but you're asking me what do I think is going to happen? I got Shakur Stevenson by a dominant unanimous decision. I think it's going to be like Oscar Valdez versus Shakur Stevenson, where you see William Zepeda kind of creeping in, but he really just can't pull the trigger, and Shakur Stevenson counterattacks him. And I think the reason why is because after this Tevin Farmer fight that Zepeda had when he got knocked down in that first fight, I think after that, William Zepeda started to kind of be more strategic. He started being a little bit more patient, and he still brawled. I mean, he still had a high volume punches, but I do think that when he goes in here against Shakur Stevenson, I think he's going to overthink it, and I think that's going to lead to Shakur Stevenson getting a pretty wide unanimous decision. I'm going to go on a limb and say he knocks him down once in this fight too. I think Shakur Stevenson is going to knock down William Zepeda in this fight. William Zepeda is going to get back up. Shakur Stevenson is not going to be able to finish the job, and they're going to go the whole 12 rounds. I think Shakur Stevenson is going to walk out with a wide decision. But could I also see William Zepeda making this a dogfight with Shakur Stevenson and pulling out the victory at the end? Absolutely. So if you wanted to bet on the least likely outcome of William Zepeda getting a win by decision, hey, I mean, might as well take that risk, bet $5 or $10. You get a huge payout because that's the least likely outcome to happen. So I wouldn't be opposed to you doing that either. But I just think it's going to be a very wide margin victory for Shakur Stevenson. So I got Shakur Stevenson by unanimous decision. And obviously, they're going to be in Queens, New York. Everything's going to be decided on July 12th. This is not the main event. They're counting it as like a double main event between Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda, although it is the co-main event, the real main event is Edgar Berlanga versus Shiraz. And I do think that's a good fight, but the reason why I wanted to report in this fight over that one is because I believe this fight's more important because it's for the WBC Lightweight Championship. And again, that Louis Armstrong Stadium, such a successful, such an iconic stadium to have, especially in Queens, New York. I can't wait. This is going to be a great fight. So, overall, make sure y'all tune into that fight July 12th. It's going to be Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda for that WBC Lightweight Championship in Queens, New York. And with that being said, look, I wish y'all a happy 4th of July, but make sure y'all continue to tune into the Puncher's Point. Again, we got some firework content for y'all right there. So make sure y'all continue to tune into the social medias, tune into the YouTube, tune into the podcast. And last but not least, make sure y'all stay on point with the Puncher's Point.